Final report of the commercial starship Nostromo. Third officer reporting. The other members of the crew: Kane, Lambert, Parker, Brett, Ash, and Captain Dallas are dead. Cargo and ship destroyed. I should reach the frontier in about 6 weeks. With a little luck, the network will pick me up. This is Ripley. Last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off.
Hello to all you goats. Today's video will be featuring Alien Isolation, which was developed by Creative Assembly and published by Sega. The Alien movies are near and dear to me. Being a young girl in the 90s who was born with an affinity for horror and space in general, the Alien franchise was primed to be one of my most favorites. So going into this game, I was ready to call out any lore deviances or retconning. But I was pleasantly surprised. Aside from a couple missed opportunities, Alien Isolation seems to follow the lore, and it fits nicely in between the first and second movie. You don't have to have watched the Alien movies to enjoy this game, but it certainly adds to it if you have. I enjoyed recognizing things from the movies, and having that background knowledge to be able to recognize certain things going on before I'm proven correct. I'm not gonna dawdle too much, but I must warn you that there will be major spoilers for Alien Isolation and the first Alien movie, as well as minor spoilers for the second movie, Aliens. With that said, let's dive into Alien Isolation. During the beginning cutscene of the game, we're introduced to Amanda Ripley and Samuels, who announces
I work for the company.
Anyone want to guess what company he works for? Amanda is not impressed and only gives him her full attention when he mentions they may have found her mother. A commercial vessel, the Anisadora, has recovered what they believe to be the flight recorder unit of the Nostromo, the ship her mother was on. The unit was taken to a supply depot called the Sevastopol Station, which also happens to be near the Zeta Reticuli area, and the company wants it to be retrieved because it's proprietary material. We all know there's more to it than that, but for now, that's what we have to go on. Samuels also informs us that transit aboard a courier ship called the Torrens has been arranged, and he's been authorized to take Ripley along with him and another exec if she chooses to do so. Obviously, she's not gonna say no.
There'll be some closure for you.
Aboard the Torrens, we have Ripley waking up from hypersleep. If you've seen Alien, this will all look very familiar. From these sleep pods to these drinking birds, and much more we'll see further on, are based on the first two movies' set pieces. Even the Torrens is similar in style to the Nostromo, which is explained by it being an M-class tow rig, much like the former, though it has been retrofitted into a commercial passenger cargo ship. I will be pointing out more similarities as we go, so get used to that. Anyway, we'll meet the third of our little trio of passengers, Taylor, the legal exec. She's got her own reasons for being here, as closing the case of what happened to the Nostromo will be a boon to her career. She at least has the decency to apologize for being insensitive considering just who she's talking to.
I'm sorry, that was insensitive.
After those introductions are made, the passengers are called to the bridge where we'll meet the captain and get a look at Sevastopol Station. That's definitely based on the refinery from Alien. Gotta say, I love the design, but that could be because it's based off H.R. Geiger's work, so... As the Torrens approaches the station, there's noticeable damage to the facility, meaning the Torrens won't be able to dry dock. When the captain tries to contact the station, the return message is garbled and hard to understand.
Hello, Marshall? Marshall, this is the Torrens. Say again?
all we can really make out is Colonial Marshal Waits and serious situation. So much for it's all routine. It's never routine. This leaves the 3 passengers with only one choice: spacewalk. Captain Verlaine has at least had the foresight to equip Samuel's suit with a radio booster due to the bad communications in the area. However, she warns them that she can only keep the Torrens in transit for 24 hours, meaning they're on a time limit. Once they've equipped those heavy-duty spacesuits, Taylor shows her nerves. She's got good reason to be nervous though, as not long into their journey, an explosion happens nearby and sends debris from the Sevastopol headed in their direction. Ripley manages to make it to safety with some quick reflexes, but there's no sight of Samuels or Taylor.
Samuels! Taylor! Respond! Anybody!
With no other choice, she's on her own for now. Now that Ripley's on board the Sevastopol, she needs to find some help, if that's at all possible. As she makes her way, the station tremors hard. This place is in dire shape, and it's not looking good for our girl. Looking at the damage to this place, it tells us something big went down here. This isn't just a lack of maintenance. All throughout our journey in this station, we'll come across several of these terminals. They will provide not only key information like passcodes, but also give us information on what exactly happened before we got here. This one tells us that the station is being decommissioned, which would be bad news for all of those who work for and call this place home. But it still doesn't exactly explain the mess it's currently found itself in. Further terminals and voice recordings will elaborate the reason the station's being shut down. It appears that Seegson, the proprietor of Sevastopol, was part of the space expansion boom. Construction on the station began on 2095 and was finished in just a decade in 2105. They aim to be the #1 gateway to commerce and resources in this quadrant of space. However, the space expansion bubble burst and left Sevastopol in a precarious position due to the lack of traffic in the area and lack of interest in their products, thus led to its decommissioning. As we continue on, we can see the walls covered in graffiti with sayings like, "You always know a working Joe," to "Strangers will be shot." Well then. Ah yes, the song of my people. We'll soon reach a lobby of sorts, and once the power's back on, we can see people running down below us. Checking the terminal might give us a little more information. First, we can find a code to a stash located nearby. We should note that the message mentions no one goes down to the terminal anymore, not after what happened. What happened? One more thing to see from this terminal is a message from Waits himself, telling a few of his colleagues to lock down the terminal, kill the power, and to not forget their reports as they'll need their paperwork to be bulletproof once this shit is over. The mystery ever deepens.
What the hell happened here?
That's what I've been asking this whole time. Moving into this next area, we get a good shot of the gas giant Sevastopol's orbiting. No, that is not Jupiter. Heading to the upper deck, we'll see the Torrens fly by. Obviously, Verlaine isn't gonna notice Ripley inside, and even then, the shutters close, draping the area further in darkness.
Damn it.
At this point, our goal is to find a way to contact the Torrens. We can start by restoring the power to the area so we can make some progress. The door to this small dining area will unlock when we do so, where we can find a hatch to continue forward. But before doing that, we can find a recording in here that explains a little more about how the decommissioning of the station affected its citizens. They are rightly upset, not only about the news of losing their jobs and homes, but also about the fact that Marshal Waits won't even address it head on. His crowd control tactics and personal skills seem a bit lacking.
And what's left of his team are forcibly ejecting us from the terminal. Feels like we're on our own now.
And on top of all that, from the terminal here, we can see that no flights are scheduled to leave the station, nor are there any ships available due to investigations of on-station problems, meaning no one can leave. They're stuck here. It all has the makings of a tinderbox ready to ignite. Moving on, we'll make our way to the passenger lounge, where some asshole will scare the bejesus out of me. And when heading into the baggage claim area, we'll observe a number of body bags lined up on the floor. Either this has something to do with a certain alien, or this is about to turn into a true crime podcast. In all seriousness though, if the situation didn't seem to be dire enough before, it certainly should by now. I mean, are they cute? A recording in here will mention they tossed someone in the storage area for trying to break in.
This time he nearly wrecked the door with a maintenance jack.
And when heading down to check it out, we find a man in an unfortunate state. He too has a recording, and it's grim. We get the first mention of something being on the station with them, and they don't know what it is. I think we can guess what it is, but they didn't have that luxury.
I'm fucking terrified.
Sorry, Mr. Watson, we're gonna need that maintenance jack. Now that we have that very useful tool, we'll be able to access any and all doors with those locks on them, including the one we need to get out of here. However, when trying to do so, Ripley gets cold steel pointed at her head. Our tense and jumpy bald friend introduces himself as Axel. Ripley, the sly fox, makes a deal with him. If he helps her find a way to contact the Torrens, he'll get her right out of here. That's a deal he can't pass up.
This is your lucky day.
Not far into our sojourn with Axel, we'll run into two other survivors.
Who are you?
They aren't hostile, but don't get used to it. This little interaction is there to show us that people don't trust anyone here, not outside of their small groups. So we'll need to be prepared for some not so civil encounters.
Jana, let's go.
Axel will further explain that there's a monster picking people off, one by one, and the fear is partially what's to blame for people being so hostile.
Like I said, there's a killer.
Sevastopol is a dangerous place to be, and they're just trying to survive at this point.
Picking us off one by one.
Axel will take us to his hidey hole to stock up on some supplies and acquire a flashlight. Does this headset look familiar? It didn't have this function in the movie, but I can see why they made some changes. Carrying a big, bulky flashlight around wouldn't translate well to stealth gameplay.
Let's go.
Which is something we'll get a taste of very soon. Ripley and Axel will come across some gun-toting survivors that are the shoot first, ask questions later type. Ripley will have to sneak around and distract them in order for her and Axel to make it to the other side of the room.
Nice work, Ripley.
This was fairly easy, but it's only gonna get harder and much more stressful from here. But for now, we need to keep going. And to do that, we'll need to activate this two-man system to open the way.
3.
And of course, something goes wrong, because why wouldn't it? Lucky for Axel, Ripley is there to save his bacon, even if she is shocked that he just ended a man.
You killed that guy!
She hasn't quite yet understood that it's a dog-eat-dog world here. But she will, right about now. Now that we know the xenomorph is around, all those beats and bangs take on a new edge. Is that just the sounds of the station? Is that people? Or is that the deadly xenomorph crawling around? The music amping up when waiting for this transit doesn't help calm the nerves either. I swear, I thought an alien was just gonna pop out of the ceiling or around the corner any second, and it made this wait feel so much longer than it was. Luckily, Ripley makes it on board transit without facing the ire of the aforementioned creature. Regardless of what's happened, that hasn't changed the fact that Ripley still needs to make contact with the Torrens, and that means she's heading towards Seegson Communications. It's gonna be a bumpy road right off the bat. There are people in Loren's Systech lobby, and if they notice us, they will shoot. Scuttling our way around, we'll find one of them was trying to hack the elevator with an access tuner. Ripley can snatch that up and we'll scurry off like a little goblin. I have no idea why she screamed like that. The drop was like a couple feet at most.
First thing he hears all kinds of noise. Did you hear that?
After running into the stairwell, the others will give it the chase, even though we took her hack tool.
I'm not going down there, no way.
The woman refuses to follow. That should probably make us nervous.
Find another way out. We've been here too long already.
Passing by this vending machine that only serves to make me hungry. I mean, look at those fries. That's a lot of fries. I want those fries. We can find some protection. That's right, cold hard steel. Why do I feel like this isn't gonna be as useful as it normally would? Exploring this area, Ripley will find the flight recorder unit from the Nostromo, the thing they originally went there for. Unfortunately, the data's corrupted, rendering it useless. She's frustrated, understandably so. All she wanted was to know what happened to her mom, and she can't even get that. It's gotta be a kick in the teeth to have gone through what she has in the station, be for nothing. But she shows she's more like her mother than she knows. She quickly grounds herself. She needs to stay focused if she's gonna get out of here alive. A security alert goes off and locks her in here, but there is a data cell in here, which means we'll be able to hack our way out. A small mercy. If we take a moment to hack into another room, we'll find a voice message addressed to Marshall Waits in reference to the flight recorder. It says the flight recorders were built to last, so it doesn't make sense why there's no data. He theorizes that either someone on the Nostromo instructed Mother to wipe the data, or it was tampered with before it reached the station. Examining it was a high priority job, and they had to break quite a few corporate confidentiality agreements to dig into it. That tells me someone from SYBS Corp wanted to see what was on there since VYEN wanted it back. Perhaps something they could use to leverage some gain for themselves, seeing as they're pretty much a sinking ship of a corporation at this point. Another terminal adds to this point, mentioning no one's buying their cheaply manufactured androids anymore, and their Apollo AI often malfunctions. By this information, we can come to the conclusion that SYBS was in the business of making cheap, low-grade products, as opposed to the more expensive, better quality products on the market. While that information is intriguing, we still have a security lockdown to deal with. And on that note, I spent stupidly long looking for how to end this security lockdown, only to keep walking past this thing over and over. Finally finding this flipping keyboard to end the lockdown gives us a close encounter of the fourth kind. Or is it the fifth kind? What would this be considered on the rating scale? Probably somewhere around the scared shitless region. I don't want to leave the safety of this desk, but it wouldn't be much of a video if I just stayed here. I just want you to know. I do this for you. Heading back to the SysTech lobby, our human problem will be dealt with, but that also means we have something far worse to deal with. I'm getting the f*** out of here. In this new area, we'll be introduced to SYBS' working Joe androids that we've heard about.
No wonder SYBS is losing the tech race.
These are a far cry from the sophisticated human-like androids that VYEN has created, and are a little more eerie. They won't be hostile just yet, but I wouldn't necessarily call them friendly either. Jesus Christ! This announcement has been the worst jump scare I've experienced in a long time. Not only did it give me a heart attack while I was playing, but even watching it back, it managed to get me again! Not cool, creative. Not cool. Getting back on track, we can find a modified motion tracker. Another thing familiar in the first and second movie. It's definitely more similar to the second movie's model. It's much smaller and condensed down to a handheld version. Again, I can see why they made this choice. This is the most important tool we have. It'll not only give you a rough position of enemies, but it can also show you the direction your current objective lies. Very, very helpful. We knew it was coming, but realizing we have to deal with stressed out, violent people, a roaming xenomorph on the hunt, and aggressive androids paired with malfunctioning AI, it feels like a lot to deal with. I'm hesitant to ask if things can get worse. Sneaking around, we come upon another terminal that mentions that sensitive corporate information has been logged being sent from this very terminal. Looks like they had a leak. It also sounds like some shady illegal goings-on were going on. This guy called Ransom, okay, wants to keep an eye on someone who noticed a discrepancy with the import documents and has threatened to go to the marshal about it. They apparently have a way of doing things here, and the new guy just doesn't understand. We're gonna want to keep that name in mind for future reference. After a little sneaking, we'll finally be on our way to the comms control. As soon as we reach the area, we'll hear VYEN over the comms. The Torrance has taken damage, so she's gonna have to pull out of Sevastopol's space in order to repair it. But their systems will be down while doing so. So it seems that communication is possible, but the Apollo AI isn't responding to the hails. Makes me wonder if the AI is malfunctioning, or if someone has instructed it to do so on purpose. We'll catch a lucky break, however, and be able to take a shortcut to the communication system through this short vent. Unfortunately, Apollo has disabled all external communications, with only limited internal still working. So there goes our plan to contact the Torrens directly. We'll have to find a way to contact someone within this station. Checking out the terminals south of the hub, we can find a transcript of the communications Captain Verlaine has attempted, as well as the message Waits was trying to get across back when we were still on the Torrens. It's too bad we couldn't hear the rest of that message. It would have really saved some headache. But now we can confidently say that Marshal Waits is as much a prisoner on this bucket as everyone else is.
Stand off and send help.
As we head to the human employee recreation area, we'll hear a distress call from a familiar voice. It seems at least Samuels is still alive and made it onto the station. However, the androids have cut the communications, so we're gonna have to re-enable them. But we'll have to keep an eye out for these roaming while we do. Personal space, buddy! After completing the override, we'll finally be able to communicate with Sammy. Good news, Taylor is also alive and with Samuel, but she got injured from the debris, and Samuel can't move her. Ripley gives them a quick warning about the dangers of the station and decides to go to them since Taylor can't be moved. But they're gonna need to keep their eyes peeled and remain vigilant.
Okay. I'll come to you. Keep your eyes open.
I'll send a transit car to you.
Unauthorized communication. Please wait to be attended by a member of SYBS personnel.
No, I don't think I will. We can bet the area is about to be crawling with androids, so we need to hurry out of here. And even though I saw earlier that bullets did absolutely nothing to these androids, I shot in panic, wasting all my ammo because I don't make good decisions under pressure. The wiser option was probably to be a lot more stealthy than I was, but running did the trick, at least in this case. Although this guy did end up in the elevator with me, and he just kind of stood there threatening me.
I'm going to catch you.
Finally reaching some friendly faces, we can see that Taylor is indeed not in tip-top condition. Ripley volunteers to go check out medical to see if she can find anything to help Taylor, while Samuel stays behind to keep an eye on her and work on repairing the radio Captain Verlaine had given them earlier. Does anyone else think Samuels is an android? I can't help but get this feeling, and this is me writing this without having finished the game yet.
Hide.
Unauthorized security breach detected.
Cristobal Medical is right around the corner, and we'll find a doctor here who does offer some aid. But, and there's always a but he says we need to go find a passcode for the service elevator first. Fine.
You find the passcode for the service elevator and then I'll come down to the hospital with you, okay?
As we proceed, we're gonna find out that Coleman isn't exactly Doctor of the Year. According to a recording, he complains about being locked out of the dispensary and claims he needs those medications for his patients, and that he does not have a problem. But we quickly find out that, yes, he does have a problem.
I have patients who will relapse without that medication.
The doctors have indeed locked him out due to his overly frequent visits to the dispensary to obtain mood stimulants. They know he's using them for himself, even if he tries to deny it. However, they're running low, and the people at the station are really gonna need them as they grow closer and closer to the impending station shutdown. He also didn't bother to tell us that we'll also need a key card, and didn't bother to warn us that the alien was down here.
You focus on finding that key card.
Shit.
I can see why no one trusts anyone on this station. Oh, hell no. Stress, thy name is Xenomorph. After a few close calls with the creature, we'll find the keycard and hurry back to the doctor. Ripley will chew Coleman out for not warning her about the creature's presence, which he will weakly defend as if he has any right. Then he says he's gonna go into the other room to prime the elevator.
Of course. A promise is a promise. I'm sorry for putting you through this.
I knew as soon as he said that, he was not gonna last long. Plus, we could totally see 2 dots on the scanner. Oh well, he won't be missed. The only way to progress from here is to use the vents, but we're gonna have to power them up, which can be done from one of these rooms. However, to access them, we'll need to get into this room by yanking this stun baton out from being wedged in the door. Before we get on that, there is a little information on how the xenomorph made its way onto the station. A message on this terminal from Senior Medical Officer Langdon mentions a female patient with a chest wound. It may not seem like much, but the fact that it's said to be a highly sensitive situation that needs discretion actually says quite a bit. The mere mention of a chest wound in regards to the Alien franchise tells us exactly what caused it. That's about all this terminal is gonna tell us about that, but we will find more information once we make it to the medical facility. We're not alone here. Again, Ripley is gonna have to do her best to avoid the aliens stalking the halls. I had many close calls in this area, and didn't completely make it out unscathed. Heading to Lingard's office, we can check her terminal for some more information. Most of the information for patient 0 has been classified, but we do get a name, Foster C, and we know that they were moving patients out of the medical wing. There is also a recording from Lingard herself, which will shine a little more light onto her involvement in the situation.
I want to state for the record, I have been placed under duress with regards to the compromised patient 0. And Ransom, Season's head of operations, he made certain threats for my career and my certification. I want that on record. God, hold me. That woman needed help. I didn't know what type of parasite she had encountered, but it had planted something inside her. I am so sorry. I had no way of knowing what would happen.
I told you that name Ransom would pop up again. He is a shifty little weasel that holds a rather high position within Seegson Corp, and tends to like to stick his nose into all the business going on. In any case, I don't think we can blame the doctor for whatever happened. She didn't know. None of them did. We still need to find that trauma kit, however, and are being directed to the operating theater. After scuttling around and avoiding our not-so-little stalker, we can find the door we need to go through. But we need a key card. Thankfully, it's just in the next room over, and here we can also find some more information on the situation. Earlier, we read that they were moving patients from the medical wing. Now we know that the order was issued by Marshal Waits. We can hazard a guess as to why. The patient 0 with the chest wound definitely had a chest burster. And seeing as there's a xenomorph running around, they didn't manage to deal with it and it got away. We can also find a voice message from Ransom to Lingard regarding the duress she was talking about before. He mentions that he has a lot of friends, some of them with badges, and he's caught wind that she contacted Marshal Waits about an interesting find, and he wants in. He also threatens her with revealing the information to Waits that she's had some dealings with the black market med supplies. I would likely think it's because they were running low on medical supplies, and that may have been the only way to ensure they had enough. Moving into the next area, we'll not only be dealing with the xenomorph, but human enemies as well. However, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. They can be used as a distraction for the alien, getting it off our backs for a few precious moments. And in turn, the human enemies are dealt with. Oh, excuse me, wrong room. Ah, this looks to be patient 0 herself. The terminal in here tells us as much. The pieces are starting to come together now. Catherine Foster, otherwise known as Patient 0, was a crew member of the Nisadora, the ship that found the Nostromo's flight recorder unit. We don't know exactly how Catherine managed to get herself infected with a burster, But we do know that the recorder unit was found in the last known area of the Nostromo in the Zeta 2 Reticuli area. We also get the name of the captain of the ship, Marlowe H., though the rest is classified. Marshal Waits wanted to keep this incident on the down low in order not to cause panic amongst the people. Understandable, especially considering just how precarious the situation on the station has been thus far.
This is a serious incident.
When we try to go through this door, Ripley will be shot at. They are definitely gonna regret doing that. Told ya. That's something I don't quite understand. Ripley's been on this station for less than a day and understands that the creature is lured by sound. So it's in her best interest to be as quiet as possible. These guys have been dealing with the situation far longer and just shoot at anything that moves. How have they survived this long? Surely they can hear the thing tromping through the vents in the halls. It's not like it's being discreet. Whatever, I digress. Once the coast is clear, we can head to medical reception, except no we can't. It's locked down. However, Samuels informs us that since it's a public hospital, there has to be an evacuation procedure, which should open the door for us. Looks like our time here isn't quite done yet. We need to power up this console, but in doing that, we'll also be powering up the android in here. Great. At this point, they're more annoying than frightening. You can't attack them head on like you can a human, and the alien doesn't seem to care for them. However, there are a couple ways Ripley can deal with them. You can either try to divert their attention and quickly accomplish your task. You can use the stun baton to shock them and give them a good old walloping, though that only works if you have a charge on it. Your third option is to distract them and attack them from behind. You might have to do this a couple times before you can put them out of commission. And, avoid these vents when you're doing all that. Of course, hacking the system will cause the alarm to go off, so it's best we slip through the vents and make our way back. After playing a short game of Ring Around the Rosie with the Xenomorph, we make it to holy shit. It's not something I find myself saying often, but thank God for that explosion. Still, Ripley isn't safe here. She'll have to struggle her way up this ladder and other broken pieces to reach the vents and catch the elevator to Seegson Synthetics. We've got another busted door, and at this point I'd hazard there are more non-working doors than working ones. For this one, we'll need to find a compression cylinder. We'll also have to avoid this group of people while we do so. Taking a moment to pause and listen to their conversation, we'll learn they're trapped down here and are looking for the exact thing we need. One of their crew mentions booting up the requisition android to have it help locate the cylinder.
Is he insane?
The others are wary of doing that, but are assured that it should be fine. They aren't hostile unless you're doing something you aren't supposed to. Well, we'll need to get that cylinder before they do. I did not anticipate that happening. Problem solved, I guess. Let's head up to observation. There's a terminal up here. Checking it will reveal that the head of synthetic development managed to get his hands on schematics of older versions of Weyland-Yutani androids. Even though they're older models, they are beyond anything Seegson is capable of. They would need a decent investment to be able to achieve anything like it. In response, Ransom tells him to bring the cost down. He didn't hire Smythe because he was the best, but because he was the cheapest. I mean, I can see why a guy like Ransom works for Seegson. That's pretty much on brand for them from what I've learned. But man, you did not need to burn the guy like that.
Bottom line is, I gotta look after the money, buddy.
Moving on, in order to power up the android, we'll need access to an overhead terminal. But we'll need to upgrade our hack device. That's as simple as picking up the upgrade on the floor below us. Once that terminal is hacked, we can activate the android. Turns out, the guy from earlier was right. This android does not proceed to attack, and turns out to be somewhat helpful by unlocking the door we couldn't get access to. guy? Everyone saw that coming, right? Oh well, we know where the cylinder is. We just need to go grab it. And we'll be able to access the elevator without incident. Now, we just need to get through synthetic labs and we'll be able to finally join Samuels and Taylor again. It's fairly easy and straightforward. Bro, did you just spit on me? You're lucky I'm trying to be stealthy here. We'll power straight through this little area and head directly for our friends, only to be met by Marshal Waits himself.
Identify yourself.
Ripley will ask where the rest of the forces are, to which the Marshal replies,
You're looking at them.
And she'll tell him about the creature and the androids.
Ripley?
That's when Samuels will interrupt, insisting Taylor needs attention. And yes, he's right. But again, I swear this guy has to be an android. I'm like 99% certain he is.
Then let's go.
Anyway, Marshal Waits tells us he has a basic medical unit back at HQ, but we'll need to get the transit running first. And we're off again.
Go make yourself useful.
The transit control area is much smaller compared to what we've had to navigate so far, but we will have one human and one android to deal with here. The human is simple to deal with, but the android can make this an annoying time. You'll either need to be extra sneaky while reactivating the transit console, or you'll need to deal with it. Either way, once the console is enabled and transit is running, the Marshal will contact us. Ripley gives him the go-ahead to leave without her. It's gonna take her a minute to get back, and Taylor doesn't have the luxury of time.
I can catch the next car.
This is another instance of Amanda showing that collected level-headedness her mother is known for. I'm proud of you, little Ripley. I'm proud of you. In this back room that the android had previously been trapped in, we'll find the cutting torch. We're gonna need this to cut the heavy metal covering blocking the vent in order to get out of here. And yes, I am gonna point out that this is similar to the one used in Aliens, the second movie. On our way out, we come across this recording that says there's a sanctuary somewhere in the habitation deck. They've sealed off vents and doors and apparently don't have room for any more people. But they can make room for their goods.
There's no room for more people in the sanctuary, but we can make space for their food, meds, water, and guns.
They intend to hide out there until rescue comes. I wonder how that worked out for them. As we reach the transit area, we'll hear people approaching. Luckily, they suck at shooting, and with a well-placed smoke bomb, Ripley has enough time to make it onto the shuttle. Our next destination is Marshal's HQ. Inside, we'll actually be greeted warmly for once.
Maybe we'll be safe here.
And get news that Taylor is stable from the Marshal.
Should be walking soon enough.
He'll also tell us he has Marlowe, the captain of the Anesidora, locked up here. When asking where his ship is, we're told that the captain has put it in a parking orbit around the gas giant and won't give up the codes for the autopilot. Waits leaves it up to Ripley to try her luck at getting those codes.
Maybe you can get more out of the unhelpful bastard.
Well, she won't be getting any codes, but we will get an answer as to just how Foster managed to pick up her little tag-along. And out of left field, we're gonna have boots on the ground of LV-426. Yes, that LV-426. Ripley won't be doing it personally, but will experience it from the viewpoint of Marlowe's memory. The crew of the Anesidora landed on LV-426 following the same signal that Nostromo did from the first movie. This whole memory plays out much the same way it did in the movie. They happened upon the derelict ship, found the fossilized space jockey, and of course, the eggs. That's how Foster got to meet face-to-face with the infamous facehugger. Foster is our Kane. After the sequence, Ripley wants to know more, but Marlowe refuses to cooperate unless she can get him released.
If you want more, then you need to get me out of here.
That's gonna be a no-go for now, and right about then, we're gonna have something else to deal with.
Wait, my board in the text bag lit up like a Christmas tree.
Operation Plan B, C, and D.
Whatever's happening, I want in.
Also, just a quick note, when I saved here, it said hostiles were around. Is there something you want to tell us, Waits? Ripley is gung-ho to join whatever plan Waits is cooked up, and he readily accepts her help, immediately pointing her towards a flamethrower.
Animals are afraid of fire.
The transition from Marlowe's memory to just immediately jumping in on something we only know as Plan B with no info as to what that even is a little wonky, but we're just gonna have to roll with it. We'll learn what the plan is as we go. The gist is, we're attempting to trap the alien and seal it away from the rest of the station. It sounds easy on paper, but not so much in practice. Also, what the hell is this?
Guy said he wanted to help and I have my hands full here. Besides, he's a synthetic. Should be easier for him to get in there.
I guess.
Everyone already knew Samuels was an android? I was prepared for a big reveal, but no. This is what we get. The disappointment I felt and still feel is real. First order of business, wait for transit. We'll be back in Sys Tech and, well, I had to do this section a couple times because this game has taught me over and over again that everyone is out for Ripley's blood, and I assumed these guys were enemies. And I may have lured the alien to them. And in the quickest turn of karma, it got me too. The second time, I decided to check out this room first. My jaw dropped when the damn thing literally blew up. That was not something I expected to happen at all, nor was I expecting to be attacked by a flaming android. Talk about being thrown for a loop. Further along in the game, there will be a terminal entry that talks about explosive traps set up in the station. I'm pretty sure that's what Ripley ran into, and Waits just didn't want to explain that.
Wait, what's wrong with this station?
It's always been falling apart, but because of the decommission, a lot of the systems have been shut down.
And funny enough, the guys in the lobby asked about the explosion.
Did something back there just explode?
That's the least of your problems. The creature's nearby.
Ripley was definitely a little embarrassed about that. Waits informs us that we'll be sealing off the stairwell and a few other areas to cut off its access. Once we've unlocked the door from the reception terminal, we'll have an android to deal with. Again, I can never tell when someone or something is gonna be hostile, so I just assumed he was. In my attempts to deal with it, I got tag teamed by both the android and the xenomorph. Attempt number 2, I threw a noisemaker and just watched as the android and the alien stared at it, while the android kept asking the alien, "What are you?" until the alien got bored and left. I then proceeded to throw a smoke bomb, to which I guess the working Joe didn't care for, and made my way back to the stairwell. That still didn't solve my problem, so I did what I should have done all along and used the gift Prometheus suffered to give us, and torched his ass. Had to give the xenomorph a little touch of it too. This bad boy is gonna be very handy for the rest of the sequence of events, because the alien is gonna be relentlessly stalking us the whole way through. We have a few areas to lock down. One of them happens to be a little hidey hole. From the messages here, it doesn't seem like it was all sunshine and roses. People were getting cabin fever and it was cramped and dirty, and the smell must have been awful considering the trash was beginning to rot. However, all that suffering was for naught. They may have sealed all the doors, but they left the overhead vent wide open. Like the recording says, it was like a fox dropping into a hen house. There was nowhere to run, no way out. They had essentially made themselves an easy meal. The only ones lucky were those who were away when it happened.
There's a couple of survivors who still trust the marshal in the mall.
Along with these random survivors, there seemed to be two sort of factions forming. Those with Marshal Waits, and those with Sinclair, who was head of SYBS and security. The two of them butted heads over Sinclair's black market dealings and other criminal offenses. But Waits was willing to put that aside to work together and form a united front against the alien threat. But after hearing about how Sinclair and his goons were harming civilians and stealing their supplies for themselves, the deal was off. The man at least has some morals. That's more than I can say for most of the others left on this station. After locking down all the areas needed, Ricardo will pop up over comms and inform Ripley that there's an override command that will allow her to initiate the emergency lockdown. Good timing, because it's on the terminal right in front of us. On this same terminal, we'll get some info on something we saw mentioned much earlier. The person investigating the leaked archives believes it's actually faulty hardware that's the problem. The ARIA systems are too old to properly integrate something as complex as Apollo. He did find something else out though. Someone has been accessing people's private messages and camera feeds for the last couple years, and asks if the name Ransom means anything to the recipient. There's also a voice message from Ransom behind a code lock. Gaining access to it reveals that Ransom has been looking into the transmission relay archive, in search for logs that passed through Sevastopol a while ago. He's looking for a routine company transmission packet sent from the edge of Thetis, before his ship started its trip home. I do believe he's talking about the Nostromo. Before its trip was interrupted to investigate that ill-fated signal, it had been traveling from Thetis to Earth.
Still, no one else needs to know about it, right?
So from this, we can hazard a guess that Ransom has had some kind of interest in the Nostromo. Likely, his interest was piqued once he learned about the flight recorder, and since there was no data to access on it, he went digging. After initiating the lockdown, we'll need to head through the server farm. Here's where I learned that reloading weapons is a thing. I didn't know how I didn't figure that out until now. I swear I don't remember a prompt or anything telling me that was a thing. I seriously thought my game was bugged for a while. I've never claimed to be a smart woman. After sealing the area off, it'll be time for Ripley to make her exit. But there's a problem. According to Ricardo, her exit won't open.
Is my exit clear?
Being the good guy he is, he won't leave Ripley in there and suppresses the lockdown command so she can escape. Unfortunately, that means the alien can also get out, something Waits isn't happy about.
Ricardo, how did you open it back up?
I had to suppress the alert. It was the only way to get Ripley out.
You let it out? We had it locked down, and you let it out?
The Marshal tells Ripley to head to Gemini Labs. Since the alien is still following her, he hopes to be able to trap it there.
Ripley, Ricardo, we can't let it escape again.
Now, when we head back through the SysTech lobby, the people here aren't so friendly and will open fire. And we know what happens anytime loud noises occur. That was a very, very dumb move, lady. Attempt number 2 proves to be more successful as we manage to avoid the trigger-happy woman, and we can now take the elevator to Gemini. We're gonna need access to the freight elevator here, but to do that, we need to power the area up. It's been out of action for some time since SYBS pulled funding for this section. Just past our save point, we'll come across a woman. She's not hostile, but Ripley says absolutely nothing to her. She's there, all by herself, just sitting, and no conversation is had. Dang, Rip, you not even gonna give her a heads up that she should probably get out of here? That's cold. We'll need access to the Working Joe's terminal. In a room we can get into via cutting torch, we can request maintenance to distract it for a while so we can do what needs to be done. Just, be careful. The xenomorphs don't care if you're reading. Hey viewers, this you? Get it? 'Cause it's a fan? I'm sorry, that was terrible, and I still included it. I deserve whatever dislikes I get for that one. Anyway, this thing is going to be relentless in its pursuit of Ripley as we maneuver around, pulling all the levers that need to be pulled and pressing all the buttons. Eventually we'll head to Project KG-348, where we'll be reaching the climax of the first arc of the game. As you work to restore power to the area and reconnect it to Sevastopol's systems, you are gonna be hounded by the alien. We're gonna have to make use of hiding spots, vents, and the good old flamethrower to get us through. And once we do accomplish our task, Waits jettisons this part of the station from the Sevastopol, heading directly for the gas giant, with Ripley still inside. See? You can't trust anyone. Stuck on board the careening Gemini with the alien, we'll have to quickly and carefully make our way to the airlock. There ain't no escape pods on this thing. The only thing Ripley can do is don a spacesuit and hope her luck holds out. This right here would be the most fear-inducing part for me if I were in her shoes. Sure, the xenomorph would be terrifying to be up against, but you can still hide from it. You still have a chance of survival. But free-floating in space? You can't do anything about that other than hope you're lucky enough to be propelled towards something you can grab onto. Otherwise, that's it. To me, that would be a terrifying fate. Imagine it's just you out there, floating in the endless abyss with only the protection of a spacesuit keeping you alive. The oxygen isn't gonna last forever, and you know there's no hope for rescue. I love space, and I am absolutely terrified of it. In any case, Ripley does manage to have the right luck and makes it back on board the Sevastopol. Ripley lays into Waits for using her as bait, and intends to head to the Bureau to discuss it face-to-face. Or fist-to-face, as she would prefer, I imagine.
We can discuss your methods there. Ripley out.
Waits assumed the station is safe, but the fact that the game has given us a shotgun, I'm willing to bet he's wrong. Enjoy this brief respite while you can, because we are now heading into the second arc of the game, the Android Menace. It won't take long before Ricardo informs Ripley that something is wrong with the androids.
Something's been up with the damn androids since I got here.
More wrong than before, that is. They're moving to places they normally shouldn't be, and that has him concerned. We also hear announcements on the intercom that says Sevastopol's hazardous containment alert has been raised to Omega. On top of that, Waits doesn't seem to know what's going on either and works to contact our android friend Samuels.
Maybe he knows what the hell Apollo is playing at.
After traveling through the halls and vents, we'll happen upon a scuffle between humans and androids. The working Joes seem to easily overpower them and try their hand at taking on Ripley. It doesn't work out well for them. After dispatching them... Where the hell were you? Coward? Anyway, after all that, Waits gives us more news on the situation. The working Joes aren't just attacking on trespass violations now, they're hunting. Everyone. Someone, or something, has let them off their leash. And soon after that, we hear Waits being attacked by the Joes. I think we can assume he didn't make it, which means the HQ has been compromised. That's not good. Not at all. Since he won't be able to send transit our way, we're gonna have to look for an alternate route. There's another recording in this area we'll pass by, and it's addressed to Waits from Ransom. He wants to catch a specimen alive, because money. He reminds me very much of Burke from the second movie, who also wanted a live specimen to bring back to the company. Greed is a hell of a drug. When we arrive in HQ, we can see the damage wrought by the androids. Everyone but Ricardo were slain, and there are no signs of Taylor or Marlowe. Ricardo isn't handling things well, but Ripley needs his help. She needs someone to man the station to help her navigate the Sevastopol and its dangers. He agrees and stays behind as Ripley sets off to find Samuels to get a handle on this android situation.
Yeah, sure, of course.
For now, the Joes are manageable, but soon they will be an annoying thorn in our side. Back in SYBS, Ricardo will contact Ripley and inform her there's activity on the monitors in Seegson Synthetics. So, that's gonna be our next destination.
If Samuels can talk to Apollo, he can get the androids to stand down. Then this will all be over.
After departing the elevator in Seegson Synthetics, we'll be met with an iconic visual. Yes, this guy with the magazine stuff in his mouth. It's definitely paying homage to the scene where Ash tries to do the same to Ripley. Why do they do that? I don't know, just chalk it up to their quirky nature, like jogging in place. After a close call with an elevator, we'll be in the next section. This area is littered with synthetic bodies. Most are non-functional, though some haven't given up the ghost just yet. After turning on these switches, we can head through the closed door, only to be routed into the vents. While crawling through, we hear one of the Joes talking, and see it and Samuels through the grate. The Joe is denying Samuels access to the Apollo transit because he isn't an exec, or a Seegson Synthetic. When Samuels redirects and says he'll find a way to talk to the Apollo AI directly, the Joe retorts that due to the biocontainment hazard, all permissions have been rescinded, then grabs onto Samuel's arm. That was a mistake. Our android friend does not like this and throws the Joe around like the inferior product it is. Now we know what happened to those androids in the previous room. Continuing through the vent places us in the showroom. A message on the terminal says something about the android problem maybe being in connection with all the missing people, and mentions that the models on the show floor are just for display, so not to worry about them. As soon as we walk past them, they activate. When we run into the next room, the door will shut and malfunction, buying us some time as they attempt to break through the door. If you're keen-eyed, you'll find a rewire box that'll let you divert the gas, causing a pipe to burst near the door and spew flames. That should at least hurt them when they eventually break through. We're not going to be able to leave this room without a key card, and one of the Joes is carrying it, so they absolutely need to be dealt with. It's a fairly easy job if you manage to snag enough ammo for the shotgun, especially since they're already damaged from the fire. Now we can pick up that key card and unlock that door and head into Android operations. After crossing a precarious ledge, we'll make it to the other side and find a recorded tape. It's from Spedding and elaborates on his message to the secretary in the previous room. He mentions that an android came in damaged, but had human blood on it, meaning it attacked someone.
I've alerted the marshals, put my secretary someplace safe, and right now, I'm headed for the transit.
It's curious that this station has had so many problems at once. First, it's set to be decommissioned, then manages to get a very hostile alien on board, coupled with the violent android behavior. It's all very suspicious. Putting that thought on the back burner for now, we'll find Samuels at the end of this set of rooms. He says he's gonna have to do something rather drastic if he hopes to connect with Apollo. I fully expected him to pull an Ash and turn on us here, but no, turns out he's more of a Bishop character. He's already in the chamber when we make it inside, and Ripley pleads with him not to do it. It will be far too dangerous. But he's made up his mind. He tries to tell Apollo that the infection has been purged, the creature is no longer on board, the station's safe, and requests that all hazardous containment operations are suspended. But Apollo is rejecting him, trying to stop him from interfacing. It looks like Samuels is in trouble.
Jesus, Samuels, I'll try!
We're gonna have to manually disconnect the systems, but they have to be done in a specific order, which Samuels will have to direct us on. First by telling us the color of the cable, then by describing where they are after the emergency lights come on, making it impossible to make the colors out.
I can't make out the colors of the cables! You're gonna have to guide me to them!
We manage to stop whatever's happening, but Samuels isn't doing so well. He's not gonna make it.
You're dying.
You talk like I've had an actual life. I thank you for that.
Samuels.
But his sacrifice enabled the Apollo transit. He did that for Ripley, because he wanted her to have closure.
You did that for me.
I wanted Amanda Ripley to have closure.
Man, Sammy, you were a good guy all along. Not letting Samuel's sacrifice go to waste, Ripley endeavors to go straight to the AI core. On our way out, Ricardo will contact us again. He has a tape he wants us to listen to, and it's not his 80s summer mixtape. It is in fact an interview between Taylor and Marlowe. Taylor is willing to make a deal with Marlowe to get him out of his cell. She wants the location of the derelict ship they found on the planetoid LV-426, and all the data she has on the organism. Marlowe agrees and even offers Taylor a way off the station, if she can get him out, only for the recording to abruptly end, probably when the androids descended on the HQ. So, the two of them are probably still alive somewhere, more than likely attempting to find a way to get back onto his ship. I am unsurprised. This is probably the whole reason Taylor was assigned to this mission. It definitely wasn't just to oversee the delivery of a flight recorder. Weyland-Yutani definitely wanted the coordinates off that recorder to find LV-426. Marlowe just happened to beat them to it.
Get me out of this cell right now! Get me out!
Unfortunately, we have a greater matter to deal with at the moment, so we head to transit. In this next area, there are terminals that will give us an idea of what's going on. Apollo has redirected the core android duties. They're no longer concerned with maintenance of the station or other prior duties, and are instead obsessed with hazard containment. And unfortunately, to continue on in this area, we're gonna have to give up our weapons. Ripley doesn't like this. I don't like this, because I know I'm about to be annoyed to hell. So after giving up all of our most useful defenses, we'll learn the elevator isn't working. So again, we have to find another way around. I will say I'm not overly fond of this trope in most games, but here it does make sense. The station is quite literally falling apart, so it really is to be expected. Ripley figures she can go through the power conduit linked to the Apollo core, but she's gonna have to power it down before she can do that.
I'm not coming up there to pull you out if you get stuck.
With the use of the handy dandy hack tool, it's an easy job, but we need to get through the turbine shaft to reach it. There's an emergency shutoff for the turbines nearby, but keep in mind that it needs to be a quick trip. They won't stay off forever. Now that we're heading deeper into the belly of the beast, we won't have clear radio access with Ricardo, and there will be more than a few working Joes to deal with. And these are no regular Joes. They're wearing some kind of safety suit that, in my experience, renders the stun baton useless. Pipe bombs work well, but require so many components to make that you won't be able to solely rely on them. I had to use a combination of all my throwables to deal with these guys. I have to say, I would rather deal with the alien breathing down my neck. Not because these Joes scare me, but because they annoy the piss out of me. Anyway, we can find a gas mask and a terminal in this room just to the right. We're gonna need it to be able to pass through the toxic areas. As for the terminal, this has some really interesting information. Sevastopol actually has a buyer, which is counter to everything we've heard so far. It was on a need-to-know basis, so no one but the board knew about it. It doesn't explicitly say who bought it, but we know exactly which company bought it. And if you know that, you've probably figured out why they bought it, and it also somewhat explains why the androids started behaving oddly. After Sevastopol was purchased, they immediately sent a packet of new operation rule sets. Probably has the word expendable somewhere in it. There's also a little nugget of info on Ransom's fate on Terminal within this area. It includes him lashing out at the board for betraying his loyalty. He claims he was gonna give them the find of a lifetime, but they left him twisting in the wind after Apollo cut off all communications. Ransom made the mistake that many have before, and many will after. He believed he was more valuable than he was. As we continue on, we'll activate the left and right server banks, where we'll have to search for a specific console to get access to Apollo security banks. And after that, we'll need to use our hack tool on the dome terminal. Unfortunately, the security is too powerful to do this successfully. The timer is crazy short, so we're gonna have to weaken it a bit by hacking 2 terminals within the vents on either side of the dome. With that terminal hacked, we'll now be able to consult with Apollo. Even from the startup screen, we can see what we're dealing with. According to Apollo, Weyland-Yutani acquired Sevastopol 2 days after the trio boarded the Torrens and headed towards this very station. When Ripley tries to issue any commands, they're denied due to Special Order 939 being in place, which consists of Priority 1, protecting the specimen, maintaining station quarantine, and disallowing communications. All other considerations are secondary. In other words, nothing and no one else matters. They are expendable. This is very, very close to Special Order 937 issued to Mother aboard the Nostromo. Furthermore, when descending below the AI core, we'll find a terminal that elaborates on the dates this all went down. And oh look, there's that word WI likes so much. Just as we suspected. Once we descend into the reactor core, there will be an announcement about multiple intruders being detected. Seeing as Ripley is only one person, and I doubt the working Joes are considered intruders, we should expect something else is lurking down here with us. Multiple something else's. The fact that we can reacquire some of our weapons along the way is pretty much spelling out that we should indeed expect trouble. Ripley is gonna have to descend to the lower levels to figure out just what that problem seems to be. However, this place is crawling with Joes. We're gonna have to navigate them, or deal with them in order to reach the elevator that will take us below to the reactor. Oh boy. Well, you see, here's the problem. There's a big old xenomorph nest here in the reactor maintenance. I repeat, a xenomorph nest. Eggs included. Eggs mean face huggers. Face huggers mean more xenomorphs. This is where all the missing colonists have gone, snatched up by the aliens and brought down here to be the veritable womb for their offspring. If you want to keep in line with lore that was established in the second movie, there would need to be a queen here for this to be possible. And there very well may be. But unfortunately, we don't get to see it. That was a huge missed opportunity in my opinion. Even just having a cutscene with the queen would have gone far, but alas, it is what it is. Ricardo tells Ripley to get out of there, but she isn't just gonna leave without doing something about it. She needs Apollo to suspend the special order so she can contact the Torrens and get off this station. But to do that, she'll need to destroy this nest. Ripley's gonna have to reactivate the alpha and beta cores down here, then redirect the power to the central core, so she'll be able to initiate a reactor purge topside in order to deal with the nest. It's not gonna be a cakewalk. We'll have to deal with face huggers and multiple aliens that really don't want to give us a break. If we can persevere through this area, we can get the hell out of this nest, but that doesn't mean things get easier. We'll have to deal with multiple rubber-suited Joes while we run around the reactor pulling levers and hacking terminals. After going through that harrowing and somewhat annoying ordeal, we can crawl our way through the vent to reach the terminal and initiate the purge. It seems to have pissed them off. It all seems for naught at the moment, but Ricardo, lovely, lovely Ricardo, gives us the news that it seems like the Purge has reactivated all kinds of systems on Sevastopol, and now they may have a chance to get out of here. With that news bolstering Ripley's spirits, we head to medical with renewed purpose. Ricardo sent us to medical because the system showed a ship approaching the station, and he believed it to be the Anesidora. Marlowe managed to send out codes for a ship when the comms were temporarily open. It's in a holding position nearby, and he believes Ripley can reach it via ambulance shuttle.
The shuttles are really short range, but they'll make it.
Once we reach the primary care floor, he'll inform us that Marlowe has already taken one of the shuttles, meaning he's already on board the Anesidora. And once we upgrade our hack tool, we'll be joining him. It'll mostly be safe on the Anesidora, except for one facehugger that will come scuttling after Ripley. While exploring the ship, we come across a recording from Foster. The Anesidora's crew hadn't been doing so well in the past couple years. Money was tight, but it seemed their luck changed when they found the Nostromo's flight recorder. Weyland-Yutani would pay big bucks to get that back. But Marlowe had other ideas. He wanted to use the data on the recorder to extrapolate the path of the Nostromo. In doing that, they came across the distress signal on LV-426, the same one the Nostromo came across. And we know the rest. Way earlier in the video, one of the technicians examining the Nostromo's recorder mentioned that it's possible the data was tampered with before it reached the station. That seems to be the case, since it seemed to work when Marlowe first came upon it. Unfortunately for them, it did not go the way they wanted. After turning the power back on to the ship, we'll hear Marlowe greet us.
Hey, Ripley.
He thanks Ripley for turning the power back on, as he'd only had it off because there were some things he needed to fix. Then we hear Taylor say Marlowe double-crossed her, and he says he's doing what no one else wants to do, and that he has something for Ripley. He will continue to talk as we make our way through the ship. After losing his wife to these things and seeing the devastation they can cause, he's come to the conclusion that the only way to stop this from happening somewhere else is to erase all evidence of the alien. So we can guess he purposely erased all that data on the Nostromo's recorder himself. However, not all of it's gone. He did keep a recording, something he wants Amanda Ripley to hear. It's a message to Amanda from her mother.
wanted report. Personal message. This is for my daughter. Hi, Amanda. I'm recording this for you, my sweetheart, and I hope you get to hear it one day. You see, I got into trouble. My ship, there was an accident, sweetheart, and, we found an alien creature. It was very dangerous, and the only way we could stop it was to destroy the ship. I'm okay. I'm stuck on this lifeboat, long way out, but we had to destroy the ship. We had to destroy the Nostromo. We just couldn't risk bringing that thing home with us. I needed to protect you. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. I'm sure I'll see you very soon. I love you, sweetheart.
I'm not crying, you're crying. I don't know if this provides the closure Amanda was seeking, but it at least provides her some answers, and she now knows that her mother did survive. After the message plays out, Marlowe and Taylor appear, with Marlowe stating,
Now you understand.
he's going to overload the reactor, turning it into a nuke. He wants to annihilate every trace of the creature. It's the only way to ensure it won't endanger humanity. He knows that if the company has it, they'll just start the whole thing over again. He mentions that Ellen would agree with him. She wouldn't want the company getting their hands on that information. And he is right about that. Ellen Ripley did everything she could to ensure the company wouldn't get that information. Not if she could help it. But she also did what she could to save those who could be saved. To my knowledge, she never endangered anyone knowingly, and went out of her way to help them if she could. So yeah, she would agree that the alien cannot fall into company hands, but she wouldn't knowingly sacrifice lives to do it. While he has his back turned, Taylor knocks him out with a wrench, which gives them a chance to stop the overload. Much like with Samuels, they will have to work together. They manage to succeed, but unfortunately it makes no difference. Marlowe forced the ship into overload. There's nothing either of them can do to stop it. An explosion sends Taylor crashing against the window. Now the only thing Ripley can do is escape. She'll run through the ship with explosions blocking off routes and starting fires. The ambulance shuttle has so far been spared, which gives her a quick route off this quickly failing ship. Thus begins the third and last arc of the game: escape. The Anisadora blast took out the orbital stabilizers of the station, meaning they're about to be free-falling towards the gas giant it orbits.
We're about to fall from the sky.
With the Anisadora gone, the ambulance shuttle in no shape to fly, and absolutely no other ships headed this way, their only way out is the Torrens. Just then, we hear communication from Verlaine.
Hello, Sebastopol. Can you respond?
She saw what happened and offers to take any survivors. That's perfect, but we need to find a way to send communication out to her. When in Seegson Communications, Ricardo will contact us informing us that Seegson Security is here. This is not a good thing. Seegson Security was Sinclair's little gang, and if you recall, the only thing they were securing were resources for themselves, even at the expense of civilian lives.
Comms are still out. Steer clear of them though. They're dangerous.
They heard the Torrens broadcast, and Ricardo believes they intend on taking it by force. But the comms are still out, so they can't do that just yet. We'll steer clear of them when we can, but otherwise, if it's between us or them, I won't hesitate to use force. We find Ricardo at this terminal. He says that Marlowe's permissions are still logged in, and if we had the coordinates for the Torrens, we could contact them directly, bypassing Apollo altogether.
Yeah, you should be able to find the Torrens coordinates using that. I'll get the door for you.
That's great news, so we just have to make it to the observatory to do that. Security will be here, trying to devise their own way to contact the Torrens. But they don't have what we have, and will be trying to go through Apollo, which is a useless endeavor. But they don't know that, and they don't need to know that. Once we make it to the observatory, we'll need to use the tracking system to find the Torn's coordinates using these two monitors. Once that's done, we'll be off to manually align the dishes into its position. That means we get to go outside again. I always love these parts of games, even if it's just to do a little maintenance. It's the only way I'll ever experience actually being in space, so I enjoy it. When we're outside the station, we can see just how close the Sevastopol is to the planet. It won't be long before it reaches the atmosphere, so Ripley can't waste any time. We'll need to reboot the clamp controls and give it a minute to start up before we can release all 3 clamps. That will rotate the base of the dish. We'll then need to input the Torn's coordinates in a separate console, which will redirect the dish in the right direction, and finally be able to communicate with VYEN for the first time since setting foot on the station.
Station, are you reading me, VYEN?
Ripley, what the hell is going on over there?
Ripley informs VYEN what's going on and that they need rescue.
It's deadly!
The Torns still can't dock on the station, but there is a tow platform that Ripley can access which should allow them to board the Torns from the tow umbilical.
The station's tearing free from its gravity mooring.
Once back inside, Ripley informs Ricardo of the good news. His response is quickly cut off and he no longer replies.
Ricardo, do you copy? Ricardo, come in.
That's not good. Something must have happened, but what is the question? We don't have time to think on it though, as there is going to be a breach in the viewing window that an alien enters through, and it makes quick work of the security guys in this room. This means we're back to avoiding the alien again, or rather, aliens. That's going to make navigation a little spicy. Heading back the way we entered earlier, we'll find Ricardo. He's been face-hugged. Poor guy. Out of the 3 tragedies we witnessed, this has to be the worst way to go. We can't save him, and Ripley's gonna have to do this last stretch alone. The station is in worse shape than ever, and Seeks and security still insist on attacking Ripley, even though the station is quite literally falling apart around them. The humans in this game are very, very dumb.
You think it'll be human? Oh, the God it is.
That was unintentionally hilarious. The transit to the docks is down, of course, so we'll have to restore power to it. But we need to be careful. There's a security guy in here who won't hesitate to start pulling the trigger. It's not the bullet that should frighten you. It's that. As far as I'm concerned, he got what he deserved, because he just made our job much more difficult than it needed to be. According to the terminal in here, these guys broke with Sinclair's plan when they decided to go after the Torrens. He's the one that shut the power to the transit here. He still intends to sit and wait it out in their little bunker. Does he not realize the place is falling apart?
Sinclair out.
When we go to initialize the transit, we'll need to be aware of the facehugger ready to warmly embrace us. Now, even though we have the transit up and running, that doesn't mean we can just make a run for it. We know how long it takes to arrive, and we have a xenomorph stomping around in this not so large area. We're gonna have to fend it off or distract it long enough to make it safely on the tram. Luckily, flares work remarkably well at keeping their attention for some time. The tram will take us to a room with just a short walk to the elevator. There's another alien in here. And again, those handy flares will come into use. Unfortunately, the elevator doesn't quite make it to our destinations, so we're gonna have to find an alternate route. A flaming android will round the corner, but he's easy to deal with now that we have our weapons. However, the alien in the next room isn't so easy. We'll have to fend it off while searching for a way to get past this blocked door. According to the terminal, it looks like we're heading towards the area a group bunkered down in. Damn, those close calls make my whole body tense up. Trying to open this door trips the generator. Great. Just great. I am very tense right now. Finally, after belly crawling back and forth to get that damn door open, we can scoot inside. Before we leave, there's a tape here, recorded by Sinclair. He didn't make it, neither did any of the others hiding away in here. The creatures found a way in. They always find a way in.
I tried, but I couldn't stop them.
It reminds me of the scene in Aliens when Ripley and crew are holed up in a small wing in Hadley's Hope. They thought they had every entrance and exit sealed up, but they didn't account for the creatures coming in through the ceiling. At this point, I'm not sure if there are any other survivors left on this station. It's a possibility, but if they somehow managed to evade the aliens, the androids, and each other, we never see them. From this point on, the only thing we'll encounter are aliens, and one rogue android sleeping on the floor. We'll eventually end up back in that beginning area we found ourselves at the beginning of our journey. We'll get a short moment of respite walking through here to get to the elevator, which will take us to the tow platform. It's time to initiate the docking procedure, and none too soon. This station sounds like it's going to fall apart at any moment. Ripley announces that there is no personal umbilical to use, but if she can get into a suit, she can use the EVA rig to board. The aliens are going to be on our ass far more aggressively than before, adding even more tension to this already tense situation. And I, for one, freaking love it. The more dire the situation, the better. Finally, we'll find a spacesuit and get the heck off this train wreck of a station. Ah, crap. Ripley will be stuck to the side of the wall like some of the other people we saw in the nest. Thankfully, it seems like they didn't seal her in very well and she hasn't been face-hugged yet. That's good news. The bad news is we have to make it back to the airlock, with even less time to do so. It looks like the aliens have begun nesting in this area after Ripley purged their former nest. There's eggs everywhere, which means there's face-huggers everywhere. As much as we would like to run right now, we'll need to take this slow and carefully. Those little shits can come from anywhere and we don't want to be caught off guard. As we traverse the wreckage, we'll see 3 xenomorphs. We'll need to wait until they're clear before we can move.
Jesus.
I said the exact same thing.
Just let me make it through here.
Now we have to avoid the trams barreling down the tracks as we cross them. I won't say how many times I failed at doing this, but it was more than a couple times. The rest of the traversal isn't going to be any safer, not with multiple face huggers and the station itself coming close to ending Ripley multiple times. But somehow, she perseveres and makes it back to the previous area. Verlaine will come over comms and tell us that the tow is twisted up with the station, and it's pulling the Torrens down with it.
What do you need me to do?
Ripley is on it though. Verlaine needs us to set off explosive bolts to free them from the wreckage. Even with her vision blurred, Amanda won't give up. She's one scrappy woman.
Won't let you down!
This time, when we put on the suit, there are no surprise visits, and we can now head to the platform and get the heck out of here. Sevastopol is looking just as bad outside as it did inside. This is it, people. Our survival is down to the wire here. We'll need to activate 2 priming mechanisms to unlock the manual release. Out of the corner of our eye, we can see we have company. But there's nowhere to hide, nothing we can do to distract it. All we can do is proceed with the plan and access the emergency docking release. This little sequence is definitely very reminiscent of Ellen Ripley priming the Nostromo for self-destruct. The platform will begin to shake violently, causing Ripley to lose her balance, but she's quick in anchoring herself to the railing so she won't go flying off. More xenomorphs approach now, and the situation is looking very, very dire. Just like in the movies, it always comes down to the wire, only a few short moments before it's too late. That's the end of the Sevastopol. After that cutscene, we'll be back in control of Ripley aboard the Torrens. She finally made it. She escaped. Only, something's wrong. It's too quiet. Verlaine isn't responding.
Verlaine?
Oh no. There's an alien on board the Torrens which will slowly stalk Ripley as she crawls back in fear, like it's toying with her. Then, she hits the airlock, and everything goes black. In the last scene of the game, we see Ripley free floating in space, eyes closed. And then, the lights of a ship, and the smallest of twitches. And that's the end of Alien Isolation. Man, that was one hell of a ride. It was a fun playthrough, and I'm happy it kept in line with the lore of the main franchise for the most part. There are a few instances of the pacing feeling a little off, and as I said before, it was a huge missed opportunity not to include the Queen. But overall, I'm very satisfied and will most definitely play the game again in the future. As far as its fear factor, it wasn't as terrifying as I thought it'd be. But that could be because I played Visage, and at least to me, that is still the scariest game I've played. But that doesn't mean Isolation didn't have my anxiety spiking or my adrenaline running. There were multiple times I tensed up or held my breath, so I say, bravo. I thank everyone who suggested and voted for this title. I thank everyone who decided to watch this video, and I thank you all for giving me some precious time of your day. I appreciate every single one of you. I say it all the time, and I'm gonna keep saying it. You all are the real GOATs. Like it if you liked it, dislike if you didn't. Comments and subs are very welcome if you're so inclined. However, your viewership is what matters most. So thanks for that. Feel free to follow me on X, I'll have that linked in the description. And I'll see you again on The Midnight Goat.